and easy for people. But welcome, welcome. I'm excited you're here. I'm looking forward to talking through 10 tips for the holidays and how we can make our holidays more meaningful. So we're going to just hit the share button. So you can see the PowerPoint. So 10 tips for the holiday weeks so you can stress less and have a more meaningful Christ-honoring time with your family instead. And I got some of these ideas from Mrs. Brenda Bro. She's a dear friend of mine who lives in Texas. We work together at a home for abused and neglected girls, and so I'm just sharing some of the tips that she gave me as well and some things that I had thought about along the way. All right, let's just jump right in here. So first of all, a quick intro about me, and while I'm running through this, you can go ahead and go into the chat and add in some information about you, what your, where you're from, maybe city, state, country. If you want to say another country, I know some people from other countries have signed in to some of my sessions. So, but let me tell you a little bit more about me and where I'm coming from and how I would know a little bit about these kinds of things. I was born a twin in Ethiopia. My parents were missionaries. We came back at the age of 9, and I really struggled a lot with culture shock. So that's its own story that I can talk a lot about, how to help kids who are trying to adjust to new environments. And then I went through school, and we lived in New Brunswick, and I got a 3-year Bible certificate at New Brunswick Bible Institute. And then right after that, the Lord led me to work in a foster home for abused and neglected girls in New Hampshire. So that was my first chance to actually work with lots of kids and help them through Christmas and families. Then from there, the Lord led me to get a Bachelor's of Arts in Counseling from Washington Bible College. And when I graduated from there, then I ended up for 7 years in a group home for abused and neglected girls as a resident social worker. We had 69 different girls come through that home during that time. So we got a lot of the ideas for this from that, and also from the way my parents raised us. Then from there, I worked at Bob Jones in the girls' dorms as a GA, and used that to pay for my Master's of Arts in Special Education. So I got my master's degree in special ed, and from there the Lord took me into Greenville County Public Schools, and I taught 3 years 3rd through 5th grade, and then 4 years 6th through 8th grade in emotionally handicapped classrooms and learning disabled classrooms. And then I was a professor of special education at Bob Jones for 7 years, doing a master's degree in biblical counseling, and also teaching on the university faculty. I taught the upper level methods courses for special education, so how to teach kids who struggle with special needs. And then I have been invited to be a speaker in summer exchange conferences and those kinds of things. So had lots of experience working with young people and teachers and parents, and so trying to learn different ways to share that with people. So let's jump right into the next one. This is your power session, how to not just survive, but thrive as you're going through the holidays. So a couple things to think about. First, the overarching reason for these tips. Remember, outside the box kids with challenges still need some kind of predictability in their schedule. You can have some flexibility, but they need some predictability. And then teaching them flexibility with some stability is key. And we want to resist the urge to be like the Joneses. So we'll just think about that as we're going down through this. Now, here's the first one. Plan your calendar. Brenda really emphasized this when she was talking to me. She says, we realized that we just had to stop trying to just run hither and yon and everywhere and try to meet everybody out obligation and go to whatever thing that was going on wherever. It was basically frying them. So they sat down as a family before Christmas or before the holiday, and they said, okay, what events do we all want to be part of? And then they charted them out, and then they realistically considered which ones would fit and which ones would not, so they wouldn't get too exhausted. So Luke 14:28 says, which of you intending to build sits not down first and counts the cost. And this might feel like it's a little bit of a context, but you know what? There's a real cost on your emotions, your mental health, your emotional health. When you try to chase everything and do everything for everybody, you just can't finish it properly. And you go nuts over the break. So just work at trying not to get yourself too exhausted. Jesus, when they were in ministry, when we look at Mark 6, he said, come you yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while, for there was a lot of coming and going, and they just didn't even have leisure to stop and even eat. And so he took them apart to a desert place privately and rested. Now, in my personal family, Christmas holidays were definitely very much, they've always been in my mind a restful time. We didn't go crazy. We didn't run around all over the place. We did do some things, and we'll talk about them a little bit later on, but we didn't overstress ourselves with all kinds of crazy things on our schedule. And even Christmas Day wasn't this crazy big ordeal, and I'll explain a little bit more what we did with some of that as we go here. Okay, so number 2, eat right. The Word of God says, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 10:31. So you need predictable schedules for meals. You know, you can sway them, you know, maybe half an hour, an hour, something like that. But if you have snacks around that have some nutritional value, it reduces the temptation to indulge in a bunch of junk food. Be careful how much you choose to bring into your home. I'm just going to say this because some people are not aware of this yet, but sugars and food coloring can trigger problems for kids especially, and you need to be careful how much of that you actually bring in. We don't have to be like the Joneses. We don't have to have a ton of sugar and all of those kinds of things to keep the kids happy. And then up your vitamin D and vitamin C intake. You know, if you've got supplements or those kinds of things. It is flu season. Everybody is inside. You're in close quarters. There's lots of germs being shared around. So vitamin D is getting out in the sun, actually, and that'll be the next one. But and then vitamin C as well. You know, with your oranges or your lemons or things that are healthy. Even getting little vitamin C chewable vitamins. My family had those through the years, so that helps with your holidays. Then schedule a baking day in here so that, you know, you're thinking about the kinds of things you're going to bake with your kids, and include the guys. My brothers actually ended up enjoying this, and they have this fun thing even now where they have this fudge off. If my 2 brothers are home, they'll have this fudge contest, and then they'll bring people in who don't know our family, and they'll get them to test my one brother's over my other brothers and see whose tastes better. So, you know, they got the guys involved in this. And the good thing is when you're dealing with youngers and littles, you can use this as a great fraction lesson, teaching them how about measuring things and measuring cups and measuring spoons and those kinds of things. It's a great little teaching tool in the kitchen, and it's fun at the same time. So you learn your math while having a lot of fun. Okay, let's move on. Number 3, exercise right. Get outside, take a walk. You're going to get your vitamin D, get some fresh air and sunshine. It does wonders for your mental health, not to mention that it keeps your metabolism going with the other food that you might be getting right now. But the other thing a lot of people don't know is it increases your neurotransmitters. You get more of your serotonin and dopamine and those kinds of feel-good neurotransmitters if you're out getting some exercise. Okay? Now this one I'm going to park on a little bit because I think this one's really, really important. Plan your family interaction fun and get rid of the electronics. You know, at least a certain amount of time every single day should be free of electronics. You know, get the board games, get the card games that are fun and challenging, that have some kind of educational value. I'm going to show you some in just a minute here, but I'm letting you see the list first. So you got set, blockers, Scrabble, dominoes. For our family, we had a big puzzle. When we were younger, it was maybe a 100-piece or a 500-piece that we slowly but surely worked on. But when we got older, and because there were 4 kids and 2 adults, my parents would lay out a big old puzzle board, a 3,000-piece puzzle, and we would spend the entire break working on that puzzle. So anytime somebody was going by and they were looking for something to do or they might be bored, they'd sit down at the puzzle and we'd get going puzzling. And what's kind of fun is even now, all these years later, we'll sit down as a family. My twin has one set up over to her house right now with my mom, and they, you know, sit there and they work their way through puzzles. It's a brain break, it's a relaxing thing, and yet at the same time it's teaching them educational skills, you know, matching colors, matching shapes, realizing that you try it here and you don't give up. You try it there, and if it doesn't work there, then you try over here. So it teaches you perseverance skills. There's just an awful lot of things you learn by working through puzzles and stuff like that. And Lego and Mechanos and Wedgets. There's snowflakes for decoration, and I meant to bring this over to show you how this works. Let me go grab this real quick. So you can have fun, and I actually did this ahead of time. So, you know, I had a piece of paper and I folded it in half, and then I folded it in half again. And then you can play with your family and teach them basic shapes. So I had a triangle here, I had a square here, I had a circle here, another square here, and I just cut those out. And then when you're all done, you've got, you know, this one's kind of a plain kind of snowflake, but you can do the folding even farther, and I didn't take the time to fold it all the way into 6. And you can cut the shapes and patterns, and then the kids have fun realizing, wow, and you can make snowflakes out of those. Well, let me show you the rest of these. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Here are some games that I would definitely recommend. Now, I have Scrabble instead of the regular Scrabble. So if you've got little munchkins who have trouble, they want to play a game. Obviously, this would be probably your school-age kids, but they want to play a game where they're making words and stuff like that, but their fine motor skills are a little bit more of a challenge. If you have Scrabble, it grabs a hold up. The pieces will sit inside of this, and I'll show you with the other game that I've got that's like this, where if they have a hard time putting stuff, at least it slides in and it'll stay there so it's not moving for them. So that's a good suggestion for you. The other game I want to show you that's like that is called Block It. So that's with letters. This one actually helps with your math and geometry skills. So this is the small version of Travel Blockus, and there's a whole lot more that you can get a hold of. They have a big triangle Blockus, so it's a big box like this. And Trigon, which takes these and it does it with colors instead of, or not colors, triangles instead of squares. So it's a game board like this, but when you set the little pieces in, they hold in place because there's a grip to them. I could set this anywhere in here and it's going to hold the grip. Now, what's fun about playing a game like this is you're not just playing the game, you're intentionally talking about things like, with this game, they have to match things up on sides or vertices. So most people would say points, but the mathematical term is vertices. So you can say that's a vertex there, or you have to match it up on the vertex when you're playing this game. So when you play this game, you set the thing in there, and then the next time you play, you have to put it here, but you cannot let it touch a side. It can only touch a vertex. So you're teaching them math skills at the same time as teaching them problem-solving skills and puzzle skills, because everybody's laying their things in at the same time against each other. It's a fantastic little game. And this travel one was not as expensive. The others, it's a little bit more expensive, but you can potentially make a game like this yourself if you want to. Then I want to show you this game. This is called Spot It. And if you don't have the money to buy one, let me tell you how it works, and you can create your own in your home. So you've got a picture that looks like this with a whole bunch of different things on it, okay? They're little small ones or they're big ones. Now, if I go to this next one, you'll see there's small ones and big ones. But is there anything that matches in this? Yes, you've got a key, a little tiny key on this one, and a big key on this one. So you can create these things in your home rather than having to buy, but there's probably 50 cards here with a whole bunch of different pictures on them. And when you play this game, this teaches visual, hand-eye coordination types of things. So when you're playing, if somebody sees it, then they say spot it, and they put their card down on because they spotted the thing that's different or the same. Sorry, they spotted the thing that was the same on the card. So then they can put their cards down. So that's another one that teaches hand-eye coordination, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. Then if you have kids are a little bit more advanced, you can do these kinds of squares. I intentionally left this partially open, but this is one where you have to slide the little things in to make it. And they start out like this with a bunch of little pieces, and with a little bit of quick work, you can put it together into a shape, and your kids learn how to do that. Now, a couple more that I want to show you. This one is Phase 10, and it's the dice version. Now, what I like about the dice version as opposed to the card version is when you're playing Phase 10 with the cards, people, don't see each other's things, but when you're playing Phase 10 with the dice, everybody can see how you're putting your stuff together. What happens with this is you get to see how your kids organize their thinking skills. So if they have to do a run, that's a series. So you're teaching them a math concept of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is a series. It's a series of ordinal or cardinal numbers in a row. And some kids, when you throw the dice down, they'll just look at them and they're kind of staring at them and they don't know what to do with them. And you can teach them, okay, so let's put the 2s together. Let's put the 4s together. So for instance, I've got these sitting here right now. I've got 1, 3, 6, 6, and they're all mixed up, but I would teach my students to go like this and put the 2 over here right next to the 3 so that you could logically approach how to solve this puzzle. Some kids do not have those skills. They don't know how to logically put things in order. So you figure out very quickly whether they know their ordinal and cardinal numbers. And it's, but you can gently teach them that while they're playing a game and having fun as a family. So that's just a meaningful one. Another good one that I really like is called Set. Now I'm going to show you the back of the card box because that's the quickest and easiest way to do this. The rule is everything has to be exactly the same or everything has to be totally different. So they've got different colors, different shading, different numbers, and different shapes. So either it has to be completely all the same shape, all the same number, all the same color, all the same shading, or all different. And it makes it a little bit more of a challenge, so they have to try to make sets out of what's sitting here. So if you look at what's on the back of this, you've got 1s and 2s and 3s of different sets. And students, my students have actually loved this game. It really does, they enjoy the challenge of finding the different sets, either totally the same or totally different. But this, again, teaches your visual hand-eye coordination, teaches them to think about numbers, teaches them how to, it teaches differentiation skills. So it's a fantastic game. So I'm trying to watch the time here because I don't want to spend too long on this one, but I did want to cover some that are really good. So another one that I would suggest you get, and I actually looked for this online. If you buy them brand new in the store, they're very expensive. But if you look for secondhand sets of this particular kit, Wedgets, is amazing. As you can see, you can create all kinds of fun designs with these. And I'm not going to pull them all out of the box, but there's just a fun, all kinds of different shapes and sizes and colors. And my students absolutely love playing with this when I have it in the public schools and even in the Christian schools. But it teaches building skills, construction skills. Again, it teaches those problem solving, creativity. It just really spawns their creativity, especially, and you obviously can teach things with the numbers because you have the red, blue, yellow, white, not numbers, I'm sorry, colors. So there's just, and then they've got a card set that you can go with it to help you think about all kinds of other different designs that you can make with that. Then if you've got kids who are a little bit more advanced, you got ideas like this. Now these ones will drive you crazy because these are actually designed for older adults, but you have to take that ball and get it rolling on the different things, and this is quite a challenge to do this. But these are games that I found online, like I got used secondhand rather than having to spend the full price on them. But this is, again, very much hand-eye coordination and physical because they've got to do an awful lot of work with their hands and their eyes, and so they're having fun trying to solve this, but at the same time it's teaching them more of their fine and gross motor skills. So yeah, that's why, like when I'm doing games, or if I picked up games for my classrooms, they always had some kind of an educational thing to them. So you have a lot of fun with your kids working with the games, and they've got to get off the electronics because the electronics only get you doing this with the thumbs. They don't actually get you doing the gross, like for instance with this one again, they have to move it. So they're getting their gross motor skills and the hand-eye coordination and all of those kinds of things are very much engaged in doing this. So that's a couple of the games that I've used. Now I also have, I mean, we're dealing with a Christian situation here, so I have a card game called Amen, where they have to match up and do sets. It's almost like your phase 10, where you're matching up your sets, but it's actually got verses and different sayings from the Word of God in there. So some of those kinds of things are available, or again, you can make your own if you're in a place where you can't get access to those. Okay, let me go back to sharing the rest of this. My family, the one other thing I wanted to say about, well, it might be on this screen, it might be on the next screen. Let me check here. Yeah, it's going to be on the next one, or it's a couple down. So let's go to number 5. Talk to God throughout your day. Even do so aloud so your kids can hear you. They learn to trust God by your example. For example, my mom told us, I remember sitting with her at one point, and she told us how if people popped into her mind in the middle of the night, she would pray for them. And then she would send them notes and say, hey, the Lord brought you to mind, so I've been praying for you. And she had lots of stories of different people who would say, wow, you had no idea what was going on. And I started doing this. I picked up this habit. And I have the same thing where I've got stories of people saying, well, you had no idea. I really needed your prayer right then at that moment, and it made all the difference. So, share those burdens with the Lord and your anxieties, and be carefully transparent with your children. If they're really, really young, you're not going to tell them all the fine details, but you can say, I'm really just kind of anxious right now. So I'm just going to stop and ask the Lord to give me grace and help in this particular situation. And, casting all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. And humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you. Deuteronomy 6:6-9. And these words which I command you today, they're in your heart, but you can teach them diligently to your children. You talk about them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. And bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they'll be as frontlets between your eyes, and you can write them on the posts of your house and on your gates. And so for us, we actually have, you can see behind me, I've got some verse things here, or pictures with verses on them. Throughout my house, I have little pictures and verses all the time. And at Christmas time, you can do something more with that, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on here. Next one, plan your gift giving and opening. Think about and plan meaningful gifts rather than falling for some kind of sale hysteria. Find things that you can make at home that others will appreciate. Homemade gifts from the kitchen make everybody happy. Think about the love languages rather than just buying stuff. I was reading a research study today that I can send to anybody who's interested in looking at it, where they showed that kids who had somebody playing with them all the time actually did better than kids who got a bunch of toys. They found it much more meaningful to have someone playing with them instead. So let's think about the 5 love languages. We need meaningful words of affirmation. Some kids just need to be told, hey, you know what, you're doing great, and I love your effort and your energy. Some kids need that meaningful touch. You need an extra hug, or, I love you, and just sitting quietly and playing a game with you. Some kids do respond well to gifts. And then sometimes acts of service is what really means something to somebody. Somebody actually sitting down and helping somebody do a project, cleaning their room, or showing them how to clean their room, showing them how to organize their things. That's an act of service that you can do as a parent with your children. And then sometimes it's a matter of quality time spent together. Some kids really, really respond to that, and that's what that article said that I was reading this morning, where children actually learn more and have higher intelligence if they have quality time spent together. Okay, number 7, plan rest times. Plan for everyone to have a personal alone downtime every day. Better yet, catch a nap. Even 10 minutes helps, where everybody has to go their separate ways and just be still. Sometimes you need that, where you just say, okay, everybody, this is downtime. Everybody just go quietly, be by yourself. And especially if you start to see some tension or the kids starting to argue with each other, it might be, okay, this is our little 10-minute break time. Everybody just go veg for a minute. Don't talk. Just be really still, be really quiet, and just rest a little. Even Jesus said that. Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And then the verses that I referred to earlier, where Jesus said, come apart and rest a while. Because there was much coming and going and lots of things. And sometimes you just have to stop, even for that 10 or 15 minutes. They've done research studies that show if you can stop for 10 or 15 minutes sometimes and just and breathe a little bit, count to 10, and then come back and engage, you're better. All right, set a peaceful tone in your home. Keep the lights on low. Now, if you've got people who can't see if they don't have any lights on, that's one thing. But if you have all of the bright lights on and you've got kids, especially your ADD, ADHD type of students or children, you actually need to take the lights down. They've done research studies that show that fluorescent lighting is hard on your kids. It can create angst. And there's rays that are emitted through the lights that can create a lot of angst for kids. And if you can take the lights down and use candles or lower level lighting, what I have in this room right now is lower level lighting. It's not super duper bright, but I've got a lamp over here instead of a big overhead light coming down on me. And it sets a more relaxed tone that helps keep down some of the stress that might be happening. That's also another reason why you've got to be careful with your electronics, because having too much of the electronics can cause that light actually can cause issues for kids and create angst for them, and that's one of the positive reasons why you actually need to pull that away from them. So, all right, let's talk at number 9. Plan an active service as a family. This might take some advanced planning. Look for people who need encouragement. Think of ways you can encourage and do something special for somebody in need. This is the season of giving. It's a great giveaway. Hey, hey. And that was the fun thing that my friend Brenda said. We always go to the nursing homes and specific shut-in families caroling, our family, because we do music. Now, if you're not a musical singing family, then maybe you can make cookies or goodies or something like that and take them to the shut-ins. If you're up north where there's winter, go and shovel a yard or dig some things out of the trench, out of the cold for somebody. If you're in warmer climates, maybe go mow somebody's lawn or rake. And the best way to find out is to think about some of your shut-ins in the area and go to them and ask for a list of things that they might need done, and then decide what your family can do, where you're going to set aside some time to go and do that. And every year, for us, it's the plan. Like last night, we went and sang for 2 hours, an hour at the nursing home, and then we went over to the hospital and actually have permission to walk the halls of the hospital and sing quietly. And so we took favorites for people and sang throughout the hospital to try to encourage people at Christmas. So this is something we've always done as a family. And when my brother's kids were really young, we couldn't go for quite as long, but now that they're a little bit older, they enjoy doing it as well, and they see the ministry and they watch people go from kind of down because it's Christmas season and they're not home to smiling and happy again because somebody came in and blessed them with some joy of Christmas and the truth of the gospel and the joy of singing. So yeah, just find some kind of a service, an active service that you can do as a family. When you do these kinds of things, these are the things that they don't forget. It's making memories that stick. And, you know, you can lose stuff, you can have stuff break, et cetera, et cetera. But these memories are things that you hold, and they have value, and they make Christmas much more meaningful, or your other holidays. Okay. Then the last one here is do some kind of an intentional series on the Christmas story. Some people have Advent calendars. There's another one called the Jesse Tree, and there's coordinating devotionals to prepare your hearts for the significance of Jesus' birth. Now, you can look up Jesse Tree online, and then I had the YouTube link. I won't pull that up here right now, but this was done by Ann Voskamp, where she created a whole series of, she's got a book, and created a whole series of little mini lessons on each of the different figures in the book and their significance to Christmas and what the real true story of Christmas is, and tying the babe in the manger to the Christ on the cross. So thinking about doing some kind of little intentional Christmas story series will also help make your Christmas much more meaningful. And then if you've got other holidays that we're thinking about, you can use those as well. All right, so then this is where it's time for you to mention your ideas or any questions that you might have. I hope you found this beneficial, and you can leave ideas in the chat, or you can send me notes and I can post them to the others who had interest in this session, and we'll put it up underneath the video once I have loaded it, so that others can come in and add their ideas and things that they try to do to make Christmas or other holidays more meaningful. And again, if you want to donate anything to help out with my teaching these classes, it's ruth.meed@gmail.com, or the PayPal, and PayPal takes any kind of credit card, or the Cash App is Ruth Meed, the $sign and Ruth Meed. I just tried to make it pretty simple for people who want to do it that way. And I wish you a blessed day in the Lord.